one of the common questions people ask is, if you have a Sharia civil law in a society, why don't you also implement Sharia criminal law in that society? Take the example of India, where Muslims are allowed to be able to go to a Muslim court, which is dealt with exclusively by Muslims. It's a civil law of Sharia that is implemented, but they do not implement the criminal law, which means if a Muslim commits a murder, for example, of a non-Muslim, or vice versa, they got to go to jail based on the Indian penal code. So why is it that they don't chop the hands off, which is what is assumed to be the case in case of Sharia criminal law? Why don't they do that in India when they're already following the civil law? Well, the answer to this question is rather simple. People, for some reason, I've never seen anybody give the answer to this question, especially in the media. So the thing with Sharia is that civil law is really only dealing with Muslims, right? So if you have a property dispute and you want to find out that Islamically, by the religion, what is the share you're supposed to get? So you got to go to a Muslim scholar to ask him about the rulings, right? So there's no need to involve a non-Muslim there. So it's very easy to implement. You do not need consent of non-Muslims to be able to implement Sharia law in practice. Although you do need consent to be able to implement it so that the government recognizes that is a body of arbitration. So other than that, it's an independent, autonomous body. Now, in the case of Sharia criminal law, you have to have consent. You have to have consensus. You have to have a traditionally democratic style of voting where the people who are not Muslims, the non-Muslims who are living in, say in this example in India, the Hindus, the Christians, the Jews, and so forth, they have to be able to say yes to implementation of Sharia criminal law. Because if a Muslim commits a murder of a Hindu, or a Hindu commits a murder of a Muslim, the punishment has to be the same. And if you steal, a Muslim steals Hindu's property or vice versa, the Hindu can't say that, okay, if it's a Muslim stealing, chop off his hands, but with me, I'll just pay a fine of 10,000 rupees or whatever. You can't do that. So you got to have justice for all. And if the non-Muslims are okay with the Sharia punishments prescribed for the different crimes, then it would be implemented for all, and that's how you can implement it. And if the Muslims want, they can go ahead and put forth a request to implement that law. There's nothing wrong with that. But in this day and age, I'm guessing most of the non-Muslims are going to say, we do not want this kind of law. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're going to say we do like this kind of law. But because it has the word Sharia or Muslim attached to it, and the media has done a fantastic job at scaremongering, people are scared to implement that kind of thing and think they might have a negative consequence. But it is, if you would propose it like any other proposal and disguise it, not show it as a Muslim proposal, if you just suggest that you should be having death penalty for murder and for rape, then a lot of countries might accept it. It's just a matter of vote. The point is that you can't have a Sharia criminal law without consent, without consensus, without a democratic vote from the non-Muslims. So the system is actually rather fair. So don't be scared of Muslims. And the idea of this channel is to be able to debunk all the common myths people have about Sharia or Muslims or Islam in general.